Erling Haaland continues his goal-scoring exploits with Manchester City. Not much to talk about that. Let's talk about Arsenal versus Brighton. Because 3-0 at the Emirates. I thought that Arsenal had their dark days behind them and that this was going to be a difficult game, but I felt this was a game they could win.
Look, you see Brighton,
Yeah.
if you are going to play them and you don't show them respect, you will pay. Look, Ten Hag showed that if you are not ready to match them in terms of possession,
Yeah.
then you need to be very pragmatic. Wait for them to make mistakes for you to punish them. We saw it in the FA Cup. We saw it even in the game that Man United lost 1-0, where Luke Shaw caught the ball in the 18-yard box. In that game, United had by far the better chances to have won the game. Again, I've always said that the Jorginho, do I use the word experiment?
Yeah.
With Xhaka not respecting the fact that it is not Thomas Partey.
Yeah.
Instruction directly from Mikel Arteta. Therefore, keep going back and forth. Keep bumping forward like a typical box-to-box midfielder. Allowing Jorginho to do the protection will backfire against the quality teams. But in the last two games, it's worked to perfection.
Yeah.
So and myself here, we did the analysis of the Arsenal-Newcastle game. In that first 10-12 minutes, Newcastle should have been out of sight. But once they didn't capitalize and VAR didn't award Newcastle what in my view was an obvious penalty, and Arsenal scored, it is when Arsenal take the lead, then you begin to see the importance of Jorginho. Now, at the Emirates today, they show Brighton no respect. They thought that because Man City had won, all they needed to do was to get on the pitch and go at Brighton and beat them. You see, it is not about the beauty of the victory. We've gotten to the stage where you really do not care how you win the game. At the end of the day, it is the game that you need to win. So if you need to show your opponent a bit more respect to get them to commit and then go and punish them because you are the whole team, so be it. If you look at the game Arsenal played today, they had no solidity. That is the word. Solidity in midfield. Caicedo, McAllister.
Those are workaholics by nature.
Those are workaholic guys who were free. They
workaholics who can pass the ball, can read the game as well.
And if one of the tactics that, in my view, De Zerbi actually employed today was to make sure that Arsenal were not given enough time to build any form of meaningful, sustainable attacking play. So anytime Arsenal went 1, 2, 3, bam, if you don't win the ball off them, foul them, break the rhythm. And Arteta started complaining. There, I agree with him because I think that the referee allowed Brighton
to go on with that for a long time.
So what Arsenal also needed to do, they needed that physicality in midfield to counter or to equally be a bit more physical. Jorginho will not guarantee you that. Xhaka is not sensible to do that without getting himself booked. The man who should be doing that is Thomas Partey. But by the time Arteta realized that he needed to introduce Partey, they were already 2 goals down. So Partey is not the type of player who will more or less come and dribble. He will weak and pass, push players forward in their right position. But the game was already gone. And today, look, let me say something. I was very, very disappointed in the faithful of Arsenal who watched the game. They did something that I least expected them to do. They did not wait
to
for the referee. These guys were not meant to win the league. The realistic target of the team has already been achieved. Yes, in achieving your target, if there's an opportunity to raise the bar, you want to take it. But at the end of the day, you look at the inexperience of this team, the lack of squad depth in this team. They are not in the position to actually handle. How many players have won league title in this Arsenal? Apart from Thomas Partey,
the Man City boys.
Yeah, and then the Zinchenko, who is injured.
Zinchenko and Gabriel.
And then Gabriel finished. Thomas Partey won the league with Atletico Madrid. So if you look at them holistically as a unit, the inexperience is huge. So how the manner in which the supporters turned their back and left the Emirates before the look, I think it was so sad, and I think the boys deserve a bit more respect from the true Arsenal supporters. They've achieved Champions League football. You yourself,
They
you
haven't
know.
played Champions League in such a long
So
time.
in the past 6 years, they've never played in the Champions League. And you knew from the commencement of this league that Champions League was your target. At least show them some respect and get them to believe that next season, with better squad depth, they can come and do something better.
I can understand Arsenal fans too. The manner in which the collapse has happened is a little monumental. I mean, you expected that even if you're going to collapse at the end of the season, it was going to be with a fight, but it's not happening like that. Are you worried about Partey though? I'm getting a little worried about him because being benched in 4 games back to back, it's almost like the manager has lost faith in using you at this point in the season.
Well, the defensive solidity of the team has collapsed. That's the long and short of it, because in their 34 games in all competitions, before Saliba went down, they had conceded 26 goals. He's not played for the last about 8 games. They've conceded 16 goals. That's the big change that has happened.
Yeah.
So if you're a coach, you are thinking about everyone who's to blame. And I think Thomas Partey has had a few bad games in that run. So he is being blamed.
Sacrificed?
Basically being scapegoated. That's how I see it. Because his form has dropped. He's having to cover more space, having to do more work. So he doesn't look as good. That's not his fault. That's because the drop-off from Saliba to Holding was a big drop. Kiro is not comfortable playing on the right side of the centre-back partnership. It's a problem. So these are the things that are affecting Arsenal. So if you are telling me that a team went from considered 26 goals in their first 34 games, has considered 16 in 8. That's over a third of their goals they considered this season in the last 8 games.
Yep.
Clearly, everything has just collapsed on the defensive end. Then you look at Bukayo Saka. I think he's tired.
He should be highlighted as one of the most disappointing players in the past
He
few weeks.
basically
After
just
signing the 300,000.
he basically just floats in games
and
now.
nobody's mentioning his
Honestly,
name.
I have to say, I think he's tired, because at least the other players, there seems to be a bit of competition for their position. So other players, if Martinelli is injured,
Trossard will come in.
Trossard can
What
come
is
in.
Gabriel Jesus offering?
You can see
His
Nketiah.
fire has just dimmed.
You can see Nketiah at least is a central option. Trossard can play central. Trossard can play on the left. But on the right, there's not a viable backup.
There
And
is
he's
James
played-
boy. Is that James?
Reece Nelson.
Reece
Reece
Nelson.
Nelson boy.
Yeah.
I think Arteta
Very
has a-
direct. Yeah.
They should put him on the right. Let him play. He can play on the right. He can play on the left, and give Saka some bit of rest. You see, that Arteta's biggest mistake was to stick to the same crop of players
The whole
for over
season.
26 games unchanged. That's what he did.
Is this collapse?
26
is this,
games
I mean,
continuous.
we've talked about the Saliba injury and whatnot for a long time. Is this collapse on Arteta? Should he have reacted better to those changes?
I think part of it is, yes, in a way. I think his inexperience meant that the system was so finely calibrated that once one player went down, it was difficult for them to kind of get it back up. And you saw that also their build-up is not as smooth when Zinchenko is not around.
Yes.
Because he also relies on Zinchenko to come an
Move
extra
in
midfielder.
midfield.
Tierney cannot do that. But Tierney is a bit more solid defensively. So there's certain games you would think, okay, maybe Tierney is better. But because the build-up is so reliant on Zinchenko coming and being an extra midfielder. Because for me, I think a lot of goals they've conceded in the last few games, Zinchenko has been the cause
And
of
today,
it. But
just a minute. And today, what actually was, you see, when Brighton was so dominant in midfield, another reason why Partey should have started today was the fact that Tierney would not go in the midfield to go and compete. So the midfielder was only Jorginho.
yeah.
so maybe
And
they are
Xhaka,
Xhaka going
overcrowded
back
in
and
there.
forth.
Maybe
And he
Xhaka
didn't
sh-
restrict the movement
maybe,
of Xhaka.
maybe Xhaka should, exactly. Maybe Xhaka
didn't.
should have stayed a bit deeper.
So it's coaching.
So a lot of these things, I think Arteta is a bit, he's not as flexible as he needs to be. And maybe the players are not as versatile as with other teams. But I think he also doesn't try and be versatile, because I think if you know Tierney is playing, you know he can get wide, do things on the wing.
Yeah.
Focus on that. Don't focus on the fact that you are used to your midfielder coming in. Have a plan B. And it's not even a plan B. I'm asking you to have a plan, let me say AB, because you can play a similar way. Just use Tierney a bit differently. Use Xhaka a bit differently. Just kind of
And the
tweak
same-
it.
that's
Don't keep the principles, tweak it a bit. And things, I think his problem is that he doesn't like tweaking. So I think Saka has played way too many games, which is
many
why
games.
in the last 2 months, it's like he just can't do it. It's like
His
it's
legs
like-
are gone.
His legs are gone. And
Yeah.
for me, for Gabriel Jesus, we knew what we were going to get with him.
And
We knew
look-
we weren't going to get a very efficient goal scorer.
Exactly.
So it's like,
Exactly.
I'm not too surprised. Because for me, if he was an efficient goal scorer, they would have beaten Southampton home and away. I think that's 4 points.
He wasted a lot of chances
he
in those
wasted
games, yeah.
in those 2 games. And that's fine, but I think for me, I think one thing I'll say after watching this season, I think Arsenal will come back next season. They'll be just as good, if not better. I think
look,
they'll still be in the
next
title
season
hunt.
is going to get even more tougher.
But
Because look, I don't expect Liverpool to be this bad.
Liverpool are going to
I
reinforce.
don't expect Chelsea to be this
Yep.
bad. Man United surely will get better. Man City will up the tempo. Arsenal, Newcastle.
I'm even looking at Newcastle and Aston Villa. Those
Exactly.
teams will get better.
And then you see,
I think Arsenal also improve. I think they're also going to go into the market as a Champions League
They
club
improve.
and
So-
look for players.
so everything is going to
I'm
get
ready.
even tougher.
I'm ready for them to come back for a title
everything is
challenge.
going to get even tougher. And for me, that is where the problem is going to come from.
Arsenal Football Club have it all to do. Interesting times ahead. I wonder how Arsenal fans are basically feeling about the title
I just want
collapse,
to say,
having to
Rob
settle
Holding
for top
has
four.
to go. I think they need a way better backup in that right centre back spot because the fact that
What I think
they've
they really
not
need
been
to
able
do
to fix it
is
is
to get a right back,
Yeah.
proper right
Play
back,
Tommy Asu at centre back.
and put
Ben White,
Ben White.
as the back.
I thought Ben White was going to play at centre back when he came to Arsenal, and then he became a right back all
But
of
you
a
see, he
sudden.
had to go to right back because Saliba is a better centre back
That's
than
it.
him. Is
And
that
I think
simple?
Ben White, Saliba will be better than
Gabriel.
that Brazilian boy.
Yeah, I think Gabriel makes a lot of mistakes. That's another issue. But look, I think there's a few positions if Arsenal are able. I think one place they really need to upgrade is Granit Xhaka. I think Xhaka has had a very good season, but I think they can do a lot more. I think they tried with Fabio Vieira. We've not really seen much of what he's offered. I think that was 40 million wasted. It happens. I think they need if they get a backup right back, backup right winger, a right back, and someone to play in that Xhaka role.
And you
Because
see,
look,
Saka too. How old is he? 21, 22?
21.
Look, at his age,
Yeah.
his form will undulate.
Yeah.
So you don't get him to carry the burden.
Of your
that's
team.
why I
of
said
the
the backup is
A
key.
backup is key. Somebody who can give the young man
And
2,
you're
3,
right.
4 weeks.
You're
break.
right. They might not even need to sign someone. They might just have to trust Reece Nelson more.
And they
It could
put
be
him
that. But look, I think there's a few tweaks here and there. Maybe using
2-3
Zinchenko.
tweaks, yeah.
Maybe, and another option could even to be play Zinchenko as the number 8 instead of Xhaka in certain games and trust Tierney more because Zinchenko offers that control. Maybe he's not as good getting into the box, but I think there's a lot of room for improvements. And I think considering the jump Arsenal have made, if they make the right signings, reinforce the right positions, things will continue as they are.
Well, a lot to happen for Arsenal. Let's get to the German Bundesliga.